Yeah.
I don't know. All right. Call the meeting to order. Ask that you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for Pastor Crane to lead us in prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before I offer the prayer, I offer my apology. I completely forgot. Tim extended me grace, and I appreciate that. So here I am again. I'd like to start with just a couple of brief scriptures. First of all, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not unto your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge God, and he shall direct your path. And then from James 1, verse 5, if any of you lack wisdom, let them ask God, and it shall be given them. I'm sure, as you know, elected officials, you are responsible to the community, responsibility to serve the best interest of those who elected you. As you know, this is a country of the people, by the people, and for the people. And I know you know all of that. We ask that you would give each member of God the wisdom that they need to make the right decisions. We pray, Heavenly Father, for our police and our emergency personnel. Keep them safe as they keep us safe. We pray for our nation and for those charged with leading us. We also pray for the many troubled places in the world, from wars to earthquakes. We ask, Lord, that the meeting tonight would go smoothly and will accomplish all that is necessary to keep the community of Blissfield moving forward in a good direction. I ask this all in the powerful name of Jesus. Amen. Amen.
Thank you. Lisa, roll call.
James Eichner,
Present.
Mike Hunter,
Present.
Ben Newsom, here. Bill Dritzmaker,
Here.
Eric Rogers,
Here.
Tim Waters,
Present.
Jerry Hayes.
And just a note on Jerry, he is supposed to be attending by Zoom, which gives him the ability to participate in discussion but not vote. Moving on to minutes, looking for a motion to approve minutes from the January 23rd, 2023 meeting.
I'll move to approve the minutes of the January 23rd, 23 as presented.
Support. Moved and supported. Lisa, if you will.
Mike,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
James.
Yes. These minutes are approved. Moving on to presentations and communications. Mr. Kevin Martis, if you would like to step forward.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for allowing me a few minutes to chat with you. I hope you've been receiving my emails. It sounds like you have. Just so you know, I see those as the beginning of a two-way conversation, and I do my best to share with you where I'm thinking the community's at, but feel free to reach out to me anytime. Also, of course, I don't speak for the other 8 commissioners. But anyways, be aware that I'd be happy to speak with you anytime. And to that end, a reminder that we're going to have the District 7 roundtable meeting this Thursday at 7 p.m. at the Raga Township Hall. And that's primarily for officials. I mean, I would never exclude the public, but the main purpose is send a few officials from each district, and we'll see what kind of networking we can do and see what kind of things we have in common. And one of the reasons I'm hoping that blossoms a little bit after the first month, what I'm observing is a lot of the efforts that I see taking place in the commission seem to focus heavily on the Tecumseh-Adrian corridor, but 70% of us don't live there. Now, we have a lot of good special interest groups doing good things in that area, but that means that our voices aren't nearly as loud as all the groups that are represented there regularly. So I'm hoping this roundtable group will be a place to increase that voice, along with the MTA township meetings, which are taking place with the township officials. Another quick note, some of you may know, but Commissioner Gates former Commissioner Gates has been quite ill, so keep him in your prayers as he's struggling to recover. You may have seen in the news, I don't know, they got a lot of attention, but Project Phoenix was finally officially voted down in a 6-3 vote, so that project is over. Another point you saw in my communication, I had some big concerns about the new staff that the administrator's office was hiring. In the end, I was the lone no vote this last week, but I heard strongly from my district that people didn't like these positions, or at least the one that I wanted to share a couple thoughts on, because it's easy to say, well, how could a person be against community development? But the community development position really troubled me because one of its primary focuses was housing development, which is an industry I know something about. And while community development may make sense at the village level or the city level, there's only two levers you can pull really to increase the amount of housing in an area. One is you can reduce regulations like zoning regulations. Well, the county's zoning authority doesn't extend over any subunit of government. The other is to find a means to subsidize housing at the tune of somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000 per unit. Well, nobody in the county has identified where that money might come from. So my thought was, if we can't pull the first lever and change local regulations, and we don't have the money on the other end, we're now going to commit a couple $100,000 a year in staff. I mean, if we built one house a year, we'd actually get more done, in my humble opinion, just with the savings in salary. But nonetheless, that's my position. I support community development, but I don't think that position is going to be very effective. Quickly on Zen City, some of you are familiar with that. That's a data mining software that the county uses to read through public social media posts. I have some deep concerns about that. Not that I think it's so, I don't know, evil, but I have concerns about it that I'm not sure it gives a representative picture of what's going on to our policymakers. And we're spending about $1,000 a week on that, which seems like a lot of money to me. And the other troubling thing about that is the policymakers are the county commissioners, but it appears that
This meeting is being recorded. The recording has stopped.
most of the commissioners weren't aware that we were actually using the software, and we don't have direct access to the data that's coming out of it. So my question is the utility there. Two last points. Maybe you follow some of the stuff on the Kiwanis Trail. The county had to partner with the Kiwanis Trail Authority in order to get the grants from the DNR. But they needed a firm commitment. The county committed up to $830,000 or $850,000, even though it's not a county project. They spent about 6 years fundraising for that. We finally authorized the work to proceed before I took office. And the outstanding balance to Slazarski Excavation, which by all accounts is a great entity and did everything right, was about $550,000 minus $300,000 that we hope that we will now be getting from the DNR. My concern was that, one, neither Raisin Township nor Adrian Township, through whom the trail traversed, supported the project. They didn't see any benefit to them. And secondly, what troubled me about it is that we basically gave an unsecured line of credit to an entity with no collateral of over $800,000. The good news is it appears that the donors have come through in the end and that the county will be made whole. Going forward, I think that's a policy we really need to revisit. And I guess that's my major issue. If you watch, you'll see that the meetings have been a little more rancorous at the county level, which I think we anticipated. Ways and Means meetings are regularly taking over 2 hours now, but I think it's a good public civil dialogue and a debate about major policy issues that people weren't seeing before. And it's part of the civic debate, and I'm very much pleased to be a part of that. So I won't go on any longer, but those are my main themes. I don't know if you want me to answer any questions, but that's what I have for you.
Council, does anybody have any questions?
I've already thanked Mr. Marcus for your emails to us. The communication is much appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, and just thank you for your efforts representing our district. Thank you.
You bet. Reach out anytime. If you don't mind, I'm going to slip out.
Not a problem. Thank you again.
Yeah, have a good
See you Wednesday.
Thanks.
All right. Second presentation, Aquatic Center donation, Eric. Hi, welcome.
Thanks. I'm gonna put this up. I hope there's a blocking view. I'm not sure. You guys won't be able to see it very well, but this is kind of an idea of a couple things we're presenting tonight. I'm Eric Mann with the Parks and Rec. We have been granted a generous donation by Lois Bailey, and I've been working with her daughter, Anita Holland, for about 3 or 4 months now, just trying to put together some ideas to run by you guys and see what you think. And Daniel's been in this process too, of what we'd like to see done with the money out there. I put together a phase 1, well, we both put together a phase 1 opportunity, and Anita would have been here tonight, but she had a funeral. So our first phase, we have 3 projects we'd like to do. First is a landscaping project, which I think everyone can see we need out there. Second is a picnic area. that upside down?
No, but I was gonna just take it closer for a minute.
And third is upgrading concession area. And throughout this, please stop me if you have questions. We can,
What was the second, Eric?
set picnic area. Yep. Moving on to the landscaping real quick. Our goal is to beautify the space out of the pool. As you can see, this proposal, just pass it around now, it shows an idea. Has a different plants and stuff we want to put in there, trees. I don't expect you to memorize those because I can tell you. They're green. Okay.
Who's doing the landscaping, Eric?
Yes, we'll get to that right next.
Gotcha.
Thank you. I have two proposals, two estimates out there right now I've gotten back. The first one was with Natural Lawn Care. And this is to cover all the plants, and you can take a look at that later if you like. All the landscaping, all the maintenance for 1 year, watering, labor costs, the whole works for 1 year. And that proposal was $20,920. That was with Natural Lawn Care out of Blissfield here. The second proposal I got was from R&W Nursery for the labor costs. And they're working with a gentleman by the name of Chris Pello, and he's doing buying the plants. So the combined total for that bid was $26,028.90. So I guess what we're looking for tonight is a go ahead to move forward. This first phase, we've been talking quite a bit. We'd like to get done before the pool opens. Seems aggressive, but I think it can be done. We've already did a lot of the legwork, a lot of the estimates and everything here too. So that's our first project. Each contractor on this was given the same plants, the same everything. So it was equal. They weren't just making up their own plants and trees and different things. So they were all given an equal shot at the same proposal. So right now, obviously my proposal would be to go with the lower bid, but not necessarily looking for a decision unless you guys feel like the need to do that yet tonight, but it'd be nice to go forward because we want to get moving on this. But that's our landscaping proposal. And this covers, I don't know if you can see, it covers the whole grounds basically, with trees going out by the road, a garden, a memory garden on the side. And our main thing is make sure we were putting in stuff that didn't shed a bunch of leaves. Stuff that would not go into the pool. That was one of our main objectives, not to have maintenance with stuff that can blow into the pool.
So pre-pool opening, so that would be, would I have this done by mid-May?
Mid to end of May, yep. And I've already talked to both, Natural Lawn Care, said they could definitely get it done. Might be a little trickier with R&W, but however we want to go on that also.
And then did you say National Lawn Care is willing to come out and maintain it for the first year?
Part of that fee is a 1 year maintenance agreement where they come out, water it, replace any plants that might die off.
Okay.
And with this in mind, we've tried to put in, perennials, stuff that's going to come back, so we don't have to go around and do it again the next year. Bill, you got a question?
Yeah, their season, their year runs our pool, control our pool season, correct?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was the idea was to have tell them to have the plants and everything done by the first of, no later than the 1st of June.
And then Danielle, would we have a game plan as far as maintenance is concerned after that?
We would have to, like, following the year, these are native, low maintenance species that they've gotten. So really that we just need to get them to live, and then it should be pretty minimal after that. But we would rely on DPW if they were needing water or weed eating around them, anything like that. DPW currently mows the facility.
Okay.
And the trees that they did along both sides they're not meant to grow huge, so they don't require a lot of trimming.
Trees or shrubs?
Yeah, they're more shrubs.
More shrubs, yeah. The trees will be more towards the backside of the road.
The road.
And on that too, that would be something we would look at with the funds that we have for this project. if it's a, a better option to have this, a maintenance agreement every year for a while until these are, established, that might be a better route to go than have the DPW out there doing this too, with their time and their money and stuff, so. It'd be something we'd evaluate after the first year. Any other questions on that at all? All right, phase 2 is our picnic area. I don't know if you can see that or not. We're looking at one of these awnings here. It wouldn't be 3. I can get them with just 1 on it, but it's made by a company named Wiley Goat. That's all they do. They do different kinds of awnings for different pools and picnic areas and playgrounds.
What is the texture? Is it a?
Yeah,
Canvas.
yes, it's a canvas. It has a 10-year warranty. What we would do, there's two different options. You get a permanent or you get ones that clip. You can take it down after the season, put it up, and it looks like it's a fairly easy way of taking care of it. It's 4 clips. This is about a 40 by 32 area. It would consist of 4 separate poles with the awning. And it looks pretty neat. I mean, we could do any color we wanted. We kind of thought the blue would be nice since it's a pool. But that's something we've looked at different options. We looked at Riverbend, we looked at, for the price, and that's kind of it kind of goes with the contour of the pool out there.
And where are your thoughts, Eric, for the picnic area in particular?
On the concession side, if you're familiar with that side of the building, where the concession stand side is, it'll be on that side of the building. So what we do, and I have a proposal here for a cement bid also. We would cement that out there, adjust the fencing, which we would get a fence proposal. We don't have to do a lot, but make it where people could come out, we can rent it out. We could have people come out there, eat their lunches and stuff. Our goal is to try to get people to stay at the pool, make a day out of it instead of having to run home, eat, nowhere to eat at the picnic area or at the pool area. So for a structure about 40 by 32 is about $15,000, which is for some of the different ones we looked at from $100,000 to right around that. We kind of like that one even the best. So.
And how many tables? How many families tables?
Picnic tables. I've got picnic tables, and that'll be in our second phase.
Mhm.
So we haven't really bid. I'm looking at different ones right now, but it's big enough. We could probably get a good 6 to 10 picnic tables out there without making it too crowded.
But when you put that out there, the picnic tables would go along when you put that out there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the cost roughly of the awning. I've got a couple of different cement bids, which is a slab out there going up, covering the whole area, which for the way the grass is out there is probably the best solution. So we're not dragging stuff back into the pool area. I've gotten 2 bids. Which one in here? One was from Dehejo Concrete for a 32-inch or 32 feet by 39 feet pad. And the price was about $90 or $9,600. I had them put an option in for putting a sidewalk out from the front out to the main front of the pool. And that was another $500 if we want to go that option with that company. Second proposal was with Al Smith Concrete, and his bid was $6,510. And there again, same idea. They got the same directions for me of what we wanted. If we wanted to add another sidewalk, it was $468. So quite a big difference there, and I think most of us all know Al's work. So that's kind of an area we would like to get developed also in this first phase, moving forward, which ties into our next phase. Phase 3 is our concession stand. The concession stand was originally built there. The first 2 years, not much was done. There was some candy bars and maybe some water and a few things thrown on the table, and someone wanted something, they bought it. Last year I took over, we added some things, we had some shelving, we added some ice creams, pop stuff, and it probably, I would say, at least doubled on some days, if not tripled the sales of what it was in the past, which is obvious because you have more selection. What we're proposing is something similar to Farber Ballpark, and most of you all know what Farber looks like. We don't want to create a restaurant out there. We want to create something where people can stay for the day, go out for a picnic area, have lunch, go back in, spend a nice day at the pool. Part of that is, you know, having hot dogs, having pizza, slushy machine, pizza warmer, things like that. And part of that, we'd have to put a 3-tier sink in, which is part of the health department, which I've been to the health department, spoke with them. I've got a thick booklet of things they would be looking for at the concession. But I think that would help in the whole overall presentation of our pool. What we would do with Daniel and I talk, we would separate the lifeguards and pool employees, have someone just running the concession stand. On that note, the money wise, we'd have, you know, possibly one less guard on at the time. Instead of having them in the concession, we would have them have a concession worker. So as far as costs, it's kind of compares, it wouldn't be really much more of a cost. So if there's anything else I wanted to add in here. So that's kind of what we're looking at this first phase. You know, we've been generous enough to get quite a bit of money for the pool. Like I said, this isn't something we've rushed into. We've been meeting for quite a few months.
What would be, Eric, can you remind us, what was the total gift, please?
For what?
The total amount that was given, the donation?
178, I believe, wasn't it? Yeah, $178,000.
And then this initial, these 1, 2, 3 that you just described, what's the approximate cost of them?
You're probably looking at about 40,000. I'm looking at if I think we can get this concession done for $10,000 or less. That just depends on what.
So there's still going to be some substantial funds for work.
Yes, and that's, you know, that's something we wanted to get this phase going before we really talked about that. We want to use the same process. Anita and I getting together, talking, bring it to you guys. And if you have ideas too, by all means, let us know.
I'm sorry.
No, but we have it, like I said, this is something that her mom wanted to donate to the pool. It's been kind of earmarked for the pool. We want to make sure it's, you know, used in a way that people can enjoy it. And we've thought about a lot of cool ideas in the future too. So go ahead, Bill.
You said you wanted phase 1 to be done around in May 1st of June. So what's your timeline for the entire project?
We don't really have a timeline for him.
Okay.
The whole project. It's not like we have to spend it all in one go. There might be things that pop up we don't know about the pool, that, you know, ideas. We don't really have a timeline on that, Bill.
Okay.
So kind of, I guess what we're looking for is the go ahead to move forward with some of these projects.
Do we need an official motion on this?
So I was really just hoping, no, not at this time. Anything, we would follow our purchasing policy, so we would put any agenda item on future council meetings for things over $5,000. The presentation today is really just to make sure that Eric and Anita are moving in the correct direction, and you guys are good with the direction that they're moving, so that we don't come to you requesting to spend funds and you're like, what is this for? What are we doing? And so I think if you guys just kind of generally let staff know that you're good proceeding, and we'll finalize our prices and quotes, especially for phase 1, and get that to you guys as soon as we can, so we can get going on it.
Yeah, I think we've had a number of conversations. You're definitely on the right track here for what the community needs to make that a full value day at the pool. So
I personally like all 3 phases. I think if it were up to me only, I would reverse the phases. I think everybody knows the pool is not a moneymaker. And if you want to bring more people in, I think obviously the concession would be a big benefit to it. we all love the beauty aspect of it. But also sitting on council, I know how much it costs to maintain all of these things that we add to, whether it's a park, whether it's downtown, wherever. And everybody needs to realize and remember how much the maintenance costs. It's great that we get the donations. We love that. And we love the support from the community. But what happens as time passes on and that money's expended, then it falls back on the village to have to come up with resources and financing to be able to, we're looking at replacing the plants down at O'Mara Park. And that's in the $8,000 range just to replace some of those along that berm there. So again, we also have to continue thinking council wise, the maintenance of it, we're gonna have to reseal that entire structure at some point. So the operations, the pumps, the maintenance, the wear and tear on that is gonna be money down the line that we have to set money aside for because we just don't earn it back with pool fees. So in theory, I like the ideas. It's just how do we best spend that money in the future? And I think that's something we all need to sit down and discuss. What are the overall plans?
Well, I'm just gonna say, Eric, I know from being on Parks and Rec, you described it as in our sessions together, so I knew what was going on, but I appreciate you coming here and sharing with the entire board and explaining what your thought process is and how you and Anita came to where the decisions that you came to.
What we'll do, like Danielle said, we'll final costs and everything. And a lot of this project too, we go ahead to be done, overlapping each other. It doesn't have to be one and the other. And I'm sure they won't interfere with each other. So that's an aggressive schedule, but.
So just for my own, correct me, you are not looking at doing all 3 phases this year. Is that what you're saying, Eric?
This is phase 1, yes.
This is
Yes.
all of phase 1.
Yeah.
So the phase 1 is the landscaping, the picnic area with the concrete underneath and the concession
Yeah.
stand. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought, because I know you and I had talked last week. I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure that was, so this is total of phase 1. This is not 3
I think at first we
phases.
thought the landscaping was phase 1.
Yeah, sorry.
So that's okay. So all of this is your phase 1.
Right,
And you're talking for approximately 40,000, and you've got more discussion coming.
right.
These are things that have been discussed regarding the pool. We know very clearly, as you said, James, this is what our community needs, the concessions, the picnic area, the landscaping, something needs to do something with that material out there.
Yeah.
Great.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
No, thank you for your
All right,
efforts.
thanks,
Eric.
guys.
All right, presentations, communications, number 3, joint board meeting.
Just on there as a reminder, that we have a joint meeting scheduled Wednesday, March 15th at 6:30. It'll be at that one place. And joint meeting just means that it is the village council and all of our boards and commissions.
That's right. And I think we decided last time we would talk about the bicentennial as well. So should be input from that. All right, moving on, agenda. Looking for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Support. Moved and supported. Lisa, if you will.
Gwen,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
James,
Yes, the motion passes. Public comments, items on the agenda. Seeing none, we'll move on to unfinished business. The consideration of wastewater treatment plant upgrade project change orders. Looking for a motion to untable this unfinished business.
I make a motion to untable the consideration of wastewater treatment plant upgrade project change orders.
I'll support.
Moved and supported. Lisa, if you call the vote.
Tim,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
James,
Yes, the motion passes. Danielle, I'll defer to you to lead us in discussion.
I will actually open it up to LaSalle, who is here, and let them each introduce themselves and kind of hand it over to them. I'm here for any questions that council may have. Randy is here, and then Denise from Hogemeyer is here as well.
Hi Denise, how are you? Can we just have this tripod anymore? Thanks, Randy. So, there we go. All right, just, introduce yourselves.
I'm Vinnie Palermo. I'm the CEO and owner of LaSalle. And this is my father, Steve Palermo. He's the executive advisor.
I'm, Vinnie just purchased a company after 45 years from me this January, so she is now the owner of LaSalle.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay,
other
go ahead.
introduction?
Yes, please, please.
I'm Joy Cordy. Hi, Joy Cordy. I'm a culture equity and inclusion officer and also mentoring executive advisor to the CEO.
Alan Jinks, president of LaSalle.
Giovanni Rosa, project manager, LaSalle.
Okay. Now that we have that done, where would we like to start? We have, I think we have some extras that we've talked about, and the reason I'm executive advisor with my daughter is I was involved in this very early on. And I had an option to solve this problem probably a year and a half, a year and a half, 2 years ago. And no one would take it seriously. I personally came out to Blissfield at the site and met with the engineers and everything else. Like, we can do this, 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 and this, and we won't miss a beat. Wouldn't let us do it. I guess something with the USDA, yeah, told you, now I'm not blaming anybody here, but the USDA said, no, you have to use American-made pipe and fittings. During COVID, we could not get them. We came out and decided whether we could redo the resteel, redo the foundations, redo the whole thing. And I've been in the business 45 years. So I've been a carpenter for a number of years and run a business for 40 years. And obviously now I'm turning it over to my daughter. But be that as it may, I told them what they needed to do to get it done right. And from what I understand is the USDA disapproved your board to do that. And now it's falling on, basically on me, it's falling on my daughter, which I think is unfair. We could have gotten it done if we could have brought in foreign pipe and fittings, which I told them that.
Did the original contract state US made products, US made?
Yes, but it was bid before COVID.
No, that's my question though. The original contract was US made materials.
Yes,
How long
but you-
before the start of the project to the first time you ordered materials?
I would have, you know what, I've done. over
5 to
10
6 months has already been explained.
Excuse me?
5 to 6 months before your first purchase order. From the time you were awarded the contract to the time the first purchase order was put in.
We did, our
5
suppliers.
to 6
did-
months,
Do
sir.
you want to let me finish or no?
Well,
Without, why am I talking?
I don't know because
Okay, then it's done.
you said you could have had this solved. Here we
You know
are.
what? How long have you been in the construction business? How long? How long?
0 days.
Okay, there you go. I've been 45 years and you're telling me what I don't know? Don't you dare do that to me. And if you want to, you want to hang
So
a
let's
$1
talk
million.
about the last 5% that needs to be completed.
You know what?
When is that gonna get done?
The last 5%?
Yeah,
Well, we're still trying to get parts because of COVID. We still can't get it.
okay.
I understand, you know, let's have a raise of hands on this board. How many meetings you have, how many meetings did people work in during COVID? Were you here during COVID? Yes or no? Were you here in this room during COVID?
Yes,
You were, all of you were here, so I'm going, you were in this room all together.
yeah, we met as soon as we could.
No, during the whole COVID thing, 'cause we never shut down because we had, this job was deemed that we had to get it done.
Well, I think regardless of COVID, let's continue with your discussions. So you are claiming that you're not sure of when you've made your purchases, but yet James is stating very clearly.
James doesn't know
Well,
about construction.
According to the paperwork.
I understand, but you know, you can use, I know
There
your
was a
attorneys use
contract,
enforce.
there was a contract that was created. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. According
Would
to,
you agree that there's
according
a
to the
contract?
contract, it stated American-made material.
Correct.
COVID occurred. We all agree with that.
Guess what?
Your comment is that with COVID there, you're claiming that you could not get the materials.
We couldn't get the pipe
That's the
American
materials.
made. That's correct.
Okay,
I told them how to solve it. We couldn't cut up the reed steel and do it in a different way to get out of that. No one wanted to hear what I was saying. And I have more experience on that job than anybody. And I said, this is what you need to do. No, they won't do it. They won't do it. They won't do it. I said, well, this is gonna cost you guys a lot of money. Okay, now you know what they're doing? They're gonna hit her for $1 million. Is that
Yeah.
not fair?
how about this? What else would you like to, you were given the floor first. What else would you like to talk about?
We had winter conditions that we wanted to shut the job down because of this, and we were told to keep going through it. The other thing is I've been threatened with force majeure by your attorneys, which was basically enacted in 1918 because of the Spanish flu. Okay, that doesn't hold water. My attorney's already won with force majeure. This is now 2023. That was 105 years ago that they enacted force majeure. Now, force majeure also says that the city or county or whoever that is writing the contract has to work with the person doing the work to get out of the problem of force majeure. We were not allowed that. So everybody throws it at me, and it's like, that's fine. Our attorneys will deal with it,
Okay,
but that's not fair. That's not fair.
so we've got, you're saying about the materials, that's one part.
It was
Then you're
materials
also
and
talking
winter
about the winter
conditions.
conditions. Okay, so you made 2 points. What's
We
your,
wanted to shut it down. We weren't allowed to shut it down.
what's your other point that you'd like to make? Or points? Or-
Who wouldn't allow you to shut it down?
So there was a meeting on site on November 4th thereabouts, after we had a letter exchange, giving the village of Blissfield different options, trying to come together and work as a team to get through this. And as a result of that meeting, it was discussed that we need to get back to work and that there was no option to stopping the job. It wasn't really explained to us whether that was due to your permitting issues with Eagle. I know that you've been, I guess, lack of a better word, in default with Eagle for some time now with regards to this plant and facing fines. So there was, the village didn't have the capacity to delay the project. We were told we need to go back to work and that the village and LaSalle would work together to get this resolved. And there was a conversation about meeting in the middle on this. So we went back.
Because I do remember making accommodations throughout the winter and finding storage for materials and supplies.
Absolutely, you did step forward and find a warehouse. There was insurance fees that we discussed.
And we paid for it.
And there was the insurance fees that we discussed, and those insurance fees weren't carried. There was a cost to go through the winter and work non-productive and inefficient due to the fact that we could not get the material. And the discussion at that meeting, Giovanni was part of it, as was Brad Van Gorder, another individual from our office. And at that time, it was discussed that we'll work with LaSalle. We want to see this project done. And there was conversation of meeting in the middle on some of these costs. Our costs were much higher when we originally submitted this. And we've tried to work with the village to come to a level of understanding here. And ever since that discussion, the discussion's been, we'll give you the time, but we're not paying any of the cost.
So that's my original question. Who said you had to work through the winter? Who said you couldn't shut down?
The village.
Yes.
We wanted to keep the project moving.
Yes. So
Did the original project extend through the winter?
Yes.
Unfortunately, we bid the
So the
job.
original contract extended through the winter.
Unfortunately, we bid the job back in August of 2020. At which time it was over budget. I think the original budget for this project was around $5 million. The bids came in, they were well over budget. You guys reached back out to us and asked, hey, what can you guys do? How can you help us? And we went through and we offered back some credits.
we tried to massage the job to get it to a point where this job could go forward. And in doing so, now we're kind of biting ourselves in the behind because the job was pushed from August to an award date of November, late November. At late November, we had to write contracts to our subcontractors. It's not a matter of you give us a contract and we can automatically go. We have to write contracts to our subcontractors. They have to write contracts to their suppliers. They have to do submittals. There's a submittal phase when we submit those submittals. It put us right dead in the middle of winter. Whereas with the original start date of August, we would have been starting in the fall. There was a certain amount of stuff that we could do. There was work related to the clarifiers that could not be done in certain periods of time. So it really forced our hand in not being able to start until the March timeframe, April timeframe. And so that's when we started. Submittal process happened before that, and purchase of material was done prior to that. It wasn't until we got on site in April that we started hearing that this material was not available. It wasn't the fact that we didn't do submittals, we didn't do our due diligence to get the stuff approved and get it coming to the
You
site.
knew the confines you were working with through USDA.
We knew it was. No,
whoa, let's back this up. You're borrowing the money from the USDA, right?
That's correct.
Okay, well then I suggest you go back to them while Biden's giving everybody students loans for free and give us our money.
It has nothing to do with it. So you knew we were being funded through USDA.
And what's that got to do with anything?
What does Biden have to do with anything?
Well, dude, that's why I just made the point.
Yeah. Okay. USDA, you knew the confines that you had to work through.
Yes.
Your subcontractors were made aware of that. One more, I'm going to ask you to leave, sir.
The problem being is the material was not available. Didn't matter that we knew the confines, we could not get the material. And we started making reference to this in the meeting minutes going back to April, May timeframe when we got on site and tried to look for options to work through this. It wasn't until September, October timeframe, 6 months later, that we finally were able to start getting some of the piping that we needed.
There's only 3 suppliers in the United States that supply US-made ductile iron pipe. So
this is a USDA contract. We're in the United States. These things are known knowns.
Yeah.
Right? Like this is not a surprise to anyone.
You're kidding me. Was COVID a surprise to you?
Like this is a public works project. You know the.
Are you kidding me?
This is how.
Do you run your own business?
No.
Okay, you don't.
Let's keep it on the topic of the wastewater treatment plant.
So we've got material issue, you've got 200 conditions. What other issue or issues would you like to address?
Go ahead, stare daggers.
What's that?
Go ahead and stare daggers. I don't know what you're trying to accomplish here.
What are you doing?
What are you trying to accomplish?
I'm not trying to accomplish anything.
All right.
Let's go
I'm trying to
forward.
get you
Let's
paid
go.
fair. You know what?
Let's
You
go
want-
forward. We're going forward. We're stopping the conversation. We're gonna go forward. Now, I said this for the 3rd time politely. You have stated regarding the US made materials. That's the first issue you stated. The second issue you have stated are the winter conditions. What other comments would you like to make before we have our opportunity to make comments? Please make them now.
The US made material and the fact that it was not available forced us into the winter time period in the second season. There was at the time that we took the job, it was the understanding that we'd be able to work through the summer and get most of the stuff in place. It forced the clarifier, a lot of the concrete activities into the winter months and caused increased cost, as well as the jumping around from clarifier to headworks building to the UV chamber, that we weren't able to work in a sensible progression. We weren't able to work efficiently because we were jumping around, not being able to get the 3 sticks of pipe that we needed to complete this activity, or not getting the 5 sticks of pipe that we needed to complete this activity. So moving forward, past that, under slab electrical delay.
Say that again.
Under slab electrical delay, the plans were not efficiently submitted to the state. The design entity had submitted the plans with a couple different addresses. It took several months to get that straightened out. We couldn't get an inspection for that. We couldn't get an inspection to pass also with regards to the this particular job because of the NEMA rating of that building. Unusual that we had to encase the concrete, the conduits under the slab in concrete. Normally the slab itself is that barrier. They made us encase the conduits in concrete below that. That's on this list. Work that we were basically had to do per the inspector, and it has not been approved by the village.
And that's the most recent that you're referring to, is that correct?
No, that's not, that's the under slab electrical delay. And then also the extended GC claim for drawings being updated by state, that's the 73,000 that you have in the minutes. And then I'll touch on the removal of asphalt concrete or reinstall of concrete and asphalt. The drawings were clear as far as which areas got new concrete and new asphalt. That's what was big. It's no different than the gentleman that submitted or talked about the improvements to the pool, as well as the work that's going on. When he created a budget and he got pricing from vendors, he gave him a drawing, gave him a sketch of 32 by 39. Our drawings were clear as far as the areas that were to receive new asphalt and new concrete. In hindsight, now knowing the project fully and being out there living it for the last 2 years, there's areas that should have been shown to receive new concrete, new asphalt, where there was no way the work could be carried out for the underground without disturbing the asphalt and the concrete. It wasn't shown on the drawings to be removed. And that's this 137,000 that's on here, is the expanded areas of asphalt and expanded areas of concrete that had to be removed and replaced due to the disruption of the piping. So it goes back to the fact that the drawings weren't fully coordinated with the underground portion and with the new install, and the individual bidding this job at the time of bid, bidding the asphalt and the concrete, is not looking at the mechanical drawings as far as underground piping to know that you should be figuring on an additional area of concrete, an additional area of asphalt. We submitted those costs and those have been denied as well.
Respectfully, how many wastewater treatment plants has LaSalle worked on, built?
We've done over 10,000 projects for only Fortune 500 companies. We've done wastewater treatment plants. We've done.
And that was my question. Approximately how many wastewater treatment plants have you done?
I can't even count.
Are we talking over 100 or are we talking 50?
A dozen. It depends on how much you call a wastewater treatment plant. We worked for the big three for 40 years. So a lot of it has to do with the wastewater tie-ins and wastewater treatment plants. We've done hot cold test chambers.
I'm just talking a wastewater treatment plant similar to what ours.
You know what? I haven't built a 7-Eleven either, so I don't know what to tell you.
So, somewhere up to.
I think I'll address this man with the mask because he's been very cordial and he's been very informational as well.
Somewhere up to probably a dozen.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
This contract was effective in November 24 of 2020, is that correct?
Correct.
That rough, I mean, that's a rough date out. It was 24 according to the information I went through.
It was originally bid on August 25th.
Correct. And you spoke of that contract not being able to be under construction that year because of the fall and winter weather that was coming, obviously.
So we met with the village of Blissfield and did a kickoff meeting, and we talked about the timelines as far as getting started. And because we were just coming right into December months, and the ability to get what we thought was standard lead time
American-made pipe, et cetera, at that point in time. We knew we had to go through a submittal process. We knew we had to get these contractors under contract. It roughly takes somewhere between 2 to 4 weeks to get contractors under contract. And then once you get them under contract, then you have a period of time to do your submittals, get approval on the submittals, and then get the material released.
So that shouldn't have really been a surprise to you, knowing the time frame of when you guys would be starting.
It wasn't a surprise to us. What was a surprise to us was the fact that when the material was ordered and the fact that we were anticipating it hitting the site in the April timeframe when we started the work, the material was not available. The material was not available across the whole country. I don't know if anybody remembers the, going back to March 2020, going in the grocery stores and seeing the shelves empty. And seeing that there was no toilet paper on the shelves, there was no sanitizer on the shelves. The ripple effect that took place here didn't hit the construction industry until 21. And that's when we started seeing lumber price increases, started seeing concrete price increases, and to some extent, it didn't really hit the 22. But it was that period of time from April to November when we finally got the pipe that we tried, and hopefully Danielle can vouch for us. We tried to do whatever we could. I know Randy can. We tried to do whatever we could out that plant, and actually worked non-productive trying to do that. And it cost LaSalle, this man right here, a bunch of money trying to do that. And we looked for options with the village to try to be smart about this, and that's where I think the warehouse came from. Some of those items, because we had all this stuff showing up on the site and we had nowhere to put it because of the delay with the pipe that was beyond our control.
Randy, you want to address that? Was there materials out there, supplies, was work getting done?
We had a lot of materials that were just showing up. Part of the USDA thing is they have to be on site in order for them to submit billing for it.
Who's they?
LaSalle. So if it went to like their yard and sat, they had to sit on however much that cost until it actually showed up on site.
But isn't that where we
That's why we
consider that by moving into Blissfield manufacturing as on-site quote heated storage, correct?
Yes, because a lot of the stuff couldn't sit out through the winter. So it had to be somewhere heated. And once they had issued billing for it, it couldn't leave essentially the village.
USDA then owns it.
Essentially.
And those materials came in the fall of 21, October-ish, is that correct?
I think the first bit of pipe came in early October.
And that was when you requested to delay the project over the winter time to come in the springtime and not start over, but essentially delay the project over the winter time to avoid the winter
We
construction.
had conversations up to them surprisingly just showing up on the site, the pipe, about shutting the job down and waiting till we had the material on site to do what we needed to do. And I know the big pushback there, I think, was related to the Eagle permit as well as the desire to get this project done. We were told, no, you have to move forward, we'll work together and get this thing done. And there was an understanding there that we get together on the cost of this and come to some conclusion. And that's just never happened. Every request that we've submitted has been denied. There are some changes that have been approved. I'm not saying you guys haven't approved anything, but the state issue, the underground issues. There's an item on the docket for later on tonight. You asked when we're going to get done. There's an item that's going on the site right now where we can't complete our final tie in there because the material that's the existing main that we're not supposed to touch is failing, and we can't complete our final tie in. So stuff like that, we need to be able to get going so that we can get that project done. We want to be done down there as much as we can get the project done.
Denise, can you help us understand this removable of asphalt, concrete reinstall?
Yeah, I mean, we do clearly state what's new. The stuff, we never mark what, you know, if a pipe's gonna go through it, that they need to remove this. I mean, that's why it's not on that sheet. I mean, we mark what is like a new drive, a new sidewalk, we definitely put that. The other stuff is what happens when you install something that it's included and what needs to be replaced. We never do that on any of our projects. We don't specifically say you're moving this little piece, you know, to put your pipe through, or this is gonna be damaged by your trucks. I mean, you have them like that.
Yeah, this isn't, you know, damaged by truck. It's the fact that there's a 20-inch mains that run from the sewage pump station to the headworks building. And that area wasn't shown to be replaced on the drawing. It's large areas. If we were talking about I don't know, 15 by 15 area or even a 30 by 30 area, I wouldn't be here talking to you about it. It's the majority of the drives on the site have been
And when
impacted.
this was submitted, we asked what is changed from what's shown on the drawings. And it was, Giovanni said, there was nothing additional. It's not because of additional work that we have done this change.
Because it's not changed on the drawings did not change as far as extra work or out of scope. The drawings never stated that the existing scope of work will require a contractor to remove X amount of asphalt, concrete, sidewalk, what have you, to install the new product that we are to install.
I believe that
And-
the specs state that
and when
the
our-
site will be replaced as originally shown unless otherwise noted.
And when our subcontractors get these documents, like he stated earlier, the asphalt guy doesn't dig through the PM drawings. He just doesn't do that. He looks and sees what's on the civil drawings and he quotes what's on the civil drawings.
Had there been nothing placed on the civil drawings and with a note that you're responsible for any and all disturbance, then yeah, I would agree with that position. But the civil drawings were clear and
So
concise.
our engineer representative is saying it's in the
It's in the
specs.
specs that the site.
Okay, well, then we respectfully disagree, and then we'll just go on from there.
All right, so then
But
we
But if it's in the
respectfully disagree.
specification,
Of course you do.
oh,
This is the problem. This is what we're trying to address. So if it's in the specs,
It's not in the specs, because how long did the engineer, you know what? Don't just answer the question. How long did the engineer have to design this project?
A year and a half, I think.
Okay, well, then maybe in a year and a half, he'd go into civil drawings, the asphalt drawings, and say, this all has to be replaced. Not leave it up to 80 guys that have to do an $8 million job in 2 weeks and say, figure it all out for yourself.
the drawing should have been overlaid.
They should have been all overlaid. They were not overlaid.
yeah,
You don't hide something on a mechanical drawing and expect the civil contractor
To pick it up.
that's doing the concrete replacement only. And that he's looking at he or she's looking at a civil drawing which shows the areas and shows it in a gray scale as far as what's new and what's existing. And expect them to know that they're supposed to replace.
That's how we do all of our projects. It's division, it's architectural, structural, mechanical, process mechanical site.
But how long, you know what? All the guy had to do was write a line, a note.
My company's been in business for 60 years. And
Okay,
this is
well-
how we've always done the design of our plants.
And you-
And you say the same thing that you say. Not me personally, but our company has. And the
Yeah.
designer on this, the two of them have
So
done.
Where are they tonight?
Alan,
They're not here, I'm trying.
how does that make us
But that
responsible?
doesn't make any sense. Why not just write it on a damn
I'm
civil
not being
drawing and say
argumentative.
replace
Just
it?
asking, how does that make us responsible?
You can't hide something.
Why?
You can't hide something in the documents in the back
I mean,
page and
just-
expect the contractor.
Why not just write the line?
So who in-house
Exactly.
reviewed it? Do you have in-house engineers? Did they review it?
So we have in-house estimators that review this job, but we don't look, I mean, if the drawing says replace this area of concrete, we're not looking for additional concrete to replace. Obviously, we have the day of the bid and the weeks up to the bid, you're trying to be a little better. Obviously, you need to make sure you're covered with what's on the drawings.
You're not looking to add cost to your bid. How did you benefit from this? You're getting the expanded new asphalt, you're getting the benefits of this project. LaSalle's not getting any of the benefits of it. Poggemeyer's not getting the benefits. It's the city and village of Blissfield that's getting the benefits of it.
When you folks went through and did the project originally, you looked at the set of plans and specifications that the engineer provided, correct?
Yes.
And then your estimators, your, general contracting guys, your site supervisor looked through those plans to perform and get a bid together for the village.
Yes.
During that process, did you come out to the site to take a look at anything that you might have to look at there to see if there was something that you didn't see on the plans?
So I'm sure there was a pre-bid. I'm not sure how that took place, being that we were in around the COVID timeframe, whether that was an on-site or if that was a virtual. I don't know the answer to that, but there is.
It was on site.
Okay. There is an opportunity there, usually typically an hour, 2 hours, maybe max for a pre-bid walk, where you'll look at, do a site investigation or a quick site review. Going back to the drawings were clear as to which asphalt gets replaced, which concrete gets replaced. I'm not going to add additional scope to my work if the drawing says change this out and change this out. It's no different than, I don't know, no different than any other work element out there. If it says it gets one new air handler, I'm gonna buy one new air handler. I'm not gonna look at the other air handler and say it's in poor condition, it really needs to be replaced. I'm gonna give them a new air handler.
We're not gonna sell this tonight. This is a all or nothing, it appears. We're not gonna piecemeal just bits and pieces of each of your requests. I think we should have a subcommittee sit down with Danielle, sit down with Poggemeier and Denise or whoever, and I think some of their representatives. I personally feel for it. We'll say, I feel for the village. There's only so much money. There's only so much money that we have. There's only so much money that has been spent to us regarding USD. And I'm saying that I feel for you as well. We need to come to some sort of agreement. I don't think it's fair that it all falls back on you, and it shouldn't fall back on the taxpayers as well.
No, it should fall
COVID,
back
sir,
on-
I'm trying to speak here, okay? I feel for you. I totally understand it, and we need to find a solution, because otherwise we're just gonna continue. We can't continue bucking heads with the state and with our engineers and with ourselves and whatnot. We need to come up with some sort of understanding, some sort of.
Slightly, Mike, meaning this, that, Phil, it's my understanding you are here to, answer any questions, you could address that you yourself have looked at the contract. You have been there on site. You have, had conversations with LaSalle / Poggemeier, is my understanding. Could you weigh in on this, please?
I was at the meeting that was referred to in November, and I understood what LaSalle was asking for, and I understood what their general contractors had to say at the time. I heard the responses from the United States Department of Agriculture and from Eagle and from the project, the on-site project supervisor. I don't remember his name. Ken. And I don't know any of those people personally or even by reputation, but the folks from, it sounded like the spokesman for USDA was very knowledgeable. Certainly the site supervisor was very knowledgeable. The young woman from Eagle was kind of, I think, delegated to attend the meeting and didn't have any authority whatsoever, but she said that she would take the information back to whomever it was makes decisions at Eagle, and God only knows who that is. I'm trying to be fair. And so
her position was that it might be possible to extend the timeframes. But the bottom line at that meeting, and this is my recollection, and we heard all the stories about, and I heard the recommendation for the foreign made pipe, and the USDA wasn't having that at all.
And I agree with that, but that's not
Well,
LaSalle's fault.
let me finish.
Okay,
But what was your point?
I just said, but that's not her fault.
No, I'm not suggesting that it is.
Okay, but that's what caused all these problems. We wouldn't be, you know what, this is not.
Wait.
But look, hang on.
Let me finish, and then I'm happy to hear whatever you have to say. We heard the suggested solution, and the United States Department of Agriculture observed that this project was being undertaken and was required to be completed pursuant to a consent order. And that while there might be some leeway in terms of the time to complete the project, there would be no more money from the USDA. There wasn't any more money, and there wouldn't be any more money. And essentially their position was, and I think is, based on the legal research that I've done, that the language of the contract, specifically section 4.05C, specifically exempts, and I know it uses the word epidemic, but a pandemic is nothing other than an epidemic on a grander scale. So they weren't having it. I mean, I'm not going to argue about it.
No, because they can't. You know, there's a lawyer.
They weren't having it. And the cases such as I have found up to this point involve exclusively contractors challenging the bid specifications of projects that were awarded by the federal government, not a municipality, not a state, the federal government. Those are the cases that have been heard thus far. And nobody is buying the defense of force majeure. Nobody. I haven't seen one.
No, I'll send you one.
I haven't seen one.
Take a picture, Stan, we'll send you one. We've already won, our attorney's already won one case on force majeure.
Well, maybe.
So, well, it's McAlpine. You know McAlpine.
I'm familiar.
Okay, he's one of the biggest construction attorneys in the United States. So he's already won on two force majeure cases.
We're not in trial. But there's no point in you're trying to convince me.
What I'm saying is, this is not a Blissfield thing and a LaSalle thing. We're so far off track, it's ridiculous. I'm not blaming Blissfield for this. I'm blaming the federal government for this.
What do you expect us to do about the federal government, sir?
Well, I don't know. What do you think we're supposed to do? Am I supposed to have her eat $1 million?
We're kind of bent over
Then
the
don't build
sawhorse, aren't
something. Can you imagine if I was building a house and said, well, my bank won't give me more money, but finish the house anyways? That makes no sense to me.
All right, getting back to Mike's point, I think we should either make a motion or develop a plan to move forward. Subcommittee was suggested, future talks, further talks.
Well, I just want to ask a question from the attorney, if I am. So what you're saying is, since the government won't give Blissfield any more money, it's LaSalle's fault.
I didn't say whose fault it was.
Okay, well, but wait a minute.
If you want me to get down to that, I will, but
Yeah,
I don't
please
think
do.
this is the time or the place.
I think it is.
Well, I don't, and I'm not going to,
Well, why is that?
because this is not the time or the place.
Okay, we won't spend hundreds of thousands of dollars figuring it out then.
Well, we might.
Your winter conditions claim is asking for money. Am I wrong? $462,924.52.
Right.
How did that come to be a winter conditions claim? If you had delayed the project say you had been given the authority to stop work in November and then regain or restart your work in April of that year, how would that have cost another $462,000 to the village? Where was the justification in that?
Well, it was based on the fact that we were forced to work inefficiently without the parts and pieces and continue to move through until without all the parts and pieces that we needed to complete the job, as well as the fact that, for instance, the headworks building that we had to enclose it and heat it, we had to do concrete in the middle of winter that we had planned on doing during the summer months. That's the majority of that. It's all, you know, obviously when you get a job and it spans over a year and a half or whatever it was, 18 months, you plan to do certain portion of the work inside when you can and certain portion outside during the months that you're able to do that. And because we couldn't get parts and pieces to complete anything, we were forced to open up work over here, open up work over there, and not complete anything. And we've been fighting this for 18 months now at least. And, you know, we're right there at the finish line to get this job done. We're still fighting some of those battles, but those battles are, for the most part, behind us. Just a matter of getting across that finish line. So that's, you know, hopefully I've answered your question there.
To a point, I somewhat understand that. I have a difficult time with your schedule of work being interrupted because of shortage on materials. I understand that part of it, but I don't understand how it could cost another $460-some thousand.
We spent millions in winter protections on some jobs, millions to get them to the winter.
We lost a whole summer season there from April to October.
To get your underground work done.
We could have done that underground work and we didn't have that ability. So we went through the winter time with that underground work, with headworks, with concrete, with UV structures. All that work was done. And I'm sorry, but you're not as efficient in the wintertime than you are in the summertime. That's part of it. Part of it is the additional cost of enclosing and heating and working with the elements.
Satisfied? You want to make a motion?
What are the options for motions? Danielle, do you have some options that we might want to discuss? I know it's council's pleasure, I understand it, but can you give us some options?
Well, I think it alludes to Mike's, either we piece it out, accept it as a whole, or we go into further discussions to see if we can get a subcommittee to bring back a recommended motion.
Is that what you're thinking as well, Danielle?
I would agree that those would be your options, yes. Yeah, I mean, or no action is an option as well.
If there were a no action, what does that mean exactly?
No motion is made, then they would die on the floor.
When that happens and it dies on the floor, what does that mean?
That essentially you have denied the request if it dies on the floor. That doesn't, if it dies on the floor, it does not prohibit further conversations with LaSalle. It just means that tonight, no motion, and because the motion needs to be a positive of something you're approving or some action you're taking. So again, you can continue conversations. It's just saying that tonight you've not created a subcommittee, you've not approved any of these funds. So that would be one option. Like James said, creating a subcommittee. If you go that route, I do think there needs to be some direction. And I think LaSalle needs to have a clear understanding that that subcommittee can have conversations, but the council as a whole has the final decision. So that subcommittee can't come to you guys and say, oh, we'll approve this and commit to anything.
No, but the courts have the final say. In the contract, we still have legal remedies through the courts.
Subject to arbitration.
Well, I'll take that any day of the week.
What are the
Just
other?
saying.
We're gonna continue forward,
Um,
and we're gonna, Danielle.
So
you're saying no
another
action.
option would be to approve any combination of these requests, all the way up to the full amount.
Which is the piece of what you're referring to. Gotcha. Thank you for clarifying.
Just for clarification, this money would have to come out of the sewer fund.
Yes, the USDA was very clear that there is no more money for the village of Blissfield,
That's right.
so
And we can't take it out of any other fund.
not unless it's a loan. But we
What's
don't,
our- we know our current balance of the sewer fund?
Brandon, what's the current balance of the sewer fund?
That we raised no money in sewer bank at all. I think we'll be probably having seriously the other next.
so we did in this current budget year, we did have a little bit of a reserve, about 6 months, which is approximately, give or take, I'd have to pull the exact number, $400-some thousand.
Because we had another type of contracts that we had done with this year in the project. I mean, there's no money really. There's still a small reserve, so we have to maintain that small reserve for the state. Yes.
That's right. Does anybody have a motion?
Yeah, I'll move, we set up a subcommittee to work with Danielle, our engineers and representatives from both council and the sale to discuss, at least coming to some sort of agreement regarding the requested additional funding for that project.
Support. To that subcommittee? Lisa, do you want that motion stated?
Yes, please.
Former subcommittee, Danielle, representatives from Kogemeyer, representatives from LaSalle, and the 3 named council members to meet, try to come to an agreement regarding their request, the requested additional amounts for the wastewater treatment plant project from LaSalle.
Mike, Eric, and myself, no second by Ted. Whatever you're ready. Lisa.
I mean, obviously, our lawyers, sorry.
Gwen,
No.
Bill,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Jane.
No, motion passes. Moving on, approve Ellis Park grandstand plans. Thank you for your time this evening. Look forward to working with you in subcommittee.
Alex. Hey, Alex, thank you for your explanation. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you for your time.
Approve Park grandstand plans. Looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the full demolition of the grandstand at Ellis Park and plant grass.
Second that. Moved and seconded for option 1. Lisa, call the roll.
Well, hold on, does that include further improvements, or is that just level? I mean, I was trying to figure out.
Yeah. I was gonna try to jump in.
Yeah.
So, no, you're good. The last time that this was brought to you guys, we had talked about placing a fence along the edge there. And I did go out to get prices for that, which let me pull it here. I apologize. I was trying to multitask.
You got
Not
347.
successfully. So I did go prices on the material and to do that. I did do a couple different options because initially the plan was to do like solid fence and then paint it with the Ellis playground to make it look like it did long ago, like before the one that's there now. And then I also got prices just to do a and to do
Split rail.
yes, thank you. Oh my goodness, drawing a blank. The split rail fence, and then instead of painting it, to actually do wooden letters that were painted. Just because I thought that the wooden letters would last a little bit longer. But that would be something that we could absorb within our regular just operating budget because we do budget to take care of it. So there was about $347. DPW thought that it'd take them probably about a day, 3 employees, which again is within our regular budget. So it would just be the demolition, not just, but the demolition costs, which we budgeted for the 1,500 if we do the full demo. If we did the partial demolition and kept the part of it, it'd be 1,900 plus a week's worth of wages, which again was budgeted when we were looking at the whole project.
So does a full demolition mean we're gonna put the fence up?
Yes. I just need direction on you guys want it to be the solid fence or the split rail fence.
Which is less costly?
They were both they were about $30 apart from each other.
And does either of them have more of a lifespan than the other?
So the split rail would be easier maintenance for us, but I don't know, it's hard because of flooding. I don't know what it would look like. And that does include replacing the post as well, because we talked about reusing those and I don't think we can do that.
Split rail.
Yeah.
I like the rendering that was presented.
You want with the paint?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Would you like me to amend that? Do I need to amend that?
No, I think that's the same one.
Okay. I didn't know if you wanted me to clarify with which fence. Okay. Whatever, good.
Did Parks and Rec weigh in on this, Henny?
Yeah,
No.
but
They did during the budget process, but not recently with the proposal, because when we went through the budget process, we had just talked about the full demolition and not the partial removal. And then before this came, I did talk to Eric specifically, but not the entire Parks and Rec board. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say what you need to as well.
No, I agree. It does need to come down. The only concern I have is future, we need some kind of storage there to put bases, chop machine, that kind of thing.
Well,
What that looks like, I don't know. What's that?
No,
The whole thing is coming down? I thought, wasn't there electrical in one of those rooms?
There is electrical panel that will stay and it'll be on a wall with a little roof over it, but it's not an actual building.
Is it still live? Because didn't that run, okay, there's one.
Yes, that runs the pavilion and the electrical, it all ties into that, yes, and the lights on the field.
That's partial, I guess, my only concern, but that's something we can address in the future. I just can't see that stuff in my trunk, so.
And the bases are in there now, which for right now will go to the old school site, the old pool building.
So, and there is room inside that building, I believe.
Yes, there is.
Any other discussion? No? Lisa?
Mike,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes, motion passes. New business. Payroll. Looking for a motion to approve the payroll register.
Make a motion to approve the payroll register for January 2023 in the amount of $135,779.13.
Second.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? No. Lisa?
Gwen,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
James,
Yes, that passes. New business item number 2, accounts payable. Any questions on the bills?
Move council approve accounts payable for the period January 11th, 2023 to February 14th, 2023, the amount $543,757.44.
Support.
I got Eric in the tiebreaker. Moved and supported. Lisa?
Tim,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
James,
Yes. Motion passes. New business item number 3, approve and establish new account and amend authorized users at TLC Community Credit Union.
You want me to talk about this one?
No, it's pretty straightforward. Does anybody have any questions?
My question is, do we need more than 2 signers?
Do we? No, we don't. However, actually, yes. Let me think about this. Yes, because we have to have 2 people sign checks. So in the event that somebody's gone, we have 2 people reconcile. So yes, it would be challenging to only have 2 signers. We would never be able to take vacation.
I will if I want to.
Here's my question on this. Obviously, it only protects the village for up to $750,000, but we have more than that. So what happens if, say, the banks crash? Obviously, are we out the rest of that money? I mean, $750 is nothing compared to everything else that we would lose anyway.
Yeah, so right now, we, all of our accounts are with Blissfield State Bank and have been historically. So we have the up to $750,000 coverage there because of our different types of accounts. And we actually, I've got to give a huge shout out to Julie because she has been working with Brandon and I for, I'm going to say probably a month now, looking at different options for this, because that's really why we even are talking about this, is because we want to try to protect the village as much as possible. And hence the recommendation to move part of our funds there. So we would still, our primary bank would be Blissfield State Bank, and TLC, for lack of a better words, it's more or less a savings to help protect that money additionally. The only way to do that is to put your money into different banks. And we did talk to Julie about this, and there's a program that it does cost money where they can move your money around for you to keep it so that it is spread out. We did not feel at this time that that's something the village needs to do. Definitely something we should monitor, but we would like to keep our money local as much as possible. And the other thing is we because we don't just have a ton of extra cash sitting around, we need to be able to have access to it. And we were trying to look at an affordable way to do that. So if the village in the future wants to look at paying for that service, we could do that. But as far as purchasing additional insurance, Julie said that that's not, FDIC does not offer that. No, you're good. Okay. I was just also going to say that the village, because of the way we collect, the majority of our revenues come in at the end of a fiscal year. So like right now, our bank accounts look like there's a lot of money because we're higher and then we'll drop back off. So we just have a short kind of period at the beginning of each fiscal year where we have more money in the bank than we normally would. And this would just, again, help us to protect the village. Also, hopefully, if the bank's going to go under, we're going to know in advance. It's not going to be something that just comes out of the blue.
Who made the suggestion for this, Danielle?
Brandon did.
Good job. Welcome. Just curious.
Yeah.
Thanks. Well, I'll make a motion to move to authorize staff to open a checking account and certificate of deposit account at the TLC Community Credit Union and authorize the administrator, the treasurer, and clerk to be custodians on all accounts held at TLCCCU, including the credit card accounts.
Support.
So we're gonna use Blissfield State Bank as our operating accounts. TLC is gonna sit at what, maximum deposit?
Correct.
And every month we'll make a movement of any interest into our
Correct.
operating accounts.
Yes.
You're gonna cap it at 750 in both accounts.
So total,
We have more than that.
correct,
But that's the amount that is the insurable amount.
correct. So then we'll have insurance at TLC for 750, and we'll have Blissfield State insurance on those accounts for up to the 750. And the only other way to protect additional monies would be to open other accounts.
Sure.
Or to use this service that does the transfers for you. And and I didn't get a bunch of information on that. Julie talked to me, so they charge us and then they kind of move the money around to keep it protected and spread out. And then when you need to pull it back in, you can, and there's a process for that as well.
That's the so-called evergreen mechanism. Evergreen financing.
I don't know what.
Years ago, that
term
was
is.
years ago, this concern was on the forefront of people's minds. And at that time, one of the responses to that was something, and I forgive me, I've all been fragile in this regard. There was something called evergreen financing, and it was a mechanism that sounded like the service that you just described, where a third party put all this money in different places and then gradually consolidated it as balances reduced over time, which they do in municipal finance, because they get big when you collect your taxes, and then as you spend it, they get reduced. And it was something called evergreen financing, and that's a way of doing. Maybe that's what Julie was talking about.
Yeah, and I don't know the official term, but right now the village is protected with Blissfield State Bank at the 750. So we're requesting to open these accounts to help spread that, so that we have that protection in two places.
And they're literally just generic savings accounts, not broken down by fund or anything like that. It's just a literal account. And you are totally comfortable with transferring money back and forth and keeping track of all those transfers, and all those individual funds and all that.
Yes. So our funds are tracked within our accounting program, BSNA. So this is just an account. Like right now, we have our main pooled account that holds multiple funds. So if you guys approve this, Brendan and I talked about, like, we will take we're required to have restricted funds or our reserves for the sewer plant. So we would take those restricted funds and put them into the certificate of deposit, because we'll get a higher interest rate, and we're not spending those funds right now anyway. We need to be saving those. So those are the perfect funds that we can make a little bit more and keep them protected. Our checking and our savings, in the event that we need to pull, we would do a transfer. Like, we're not saying we're going to be constantly transferring back and forth, but later as the year goes on and our funds start to drop in our balance again, until we collect those revenues, we'll do a transfer to cover our expenses. Otherwise, it'll sit over there to keep it protected. And then next fiscal year, when we've taken in all of our revenues, we'll do a transfer back there until, again, the end of the year that we need it.
And just to clarify on the transfers, they ain't gonna give you any signatures, they give you generally electronically. TLC and Blissfield State Bank work together, so I could do financial institution to financial institution for the transfers electronically. So they won't be making check or anything going down. I think any else that is not gonna be very open.
Any further questions? Go ahead and call the roll, Lisa.
Tim,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
James,
No. Motion passes. Number 4, approve updated employee job descriptions. Where does this put us in the process of everything? Is this finalized?
The job descriptions
Mhm.
that are being presented are final, unless you guys have any changes. Staff has reviewed them, we've gone through them. We did this in preparation of the next agenda item, the classification and compensation study. So MML did say, when I initially had talked to them about this, that they would come in and do this for us. But of course, there was a cost with that. So we were trying to save some money and do it in-house because we did have job descriptions for all of our employees. So what we did is we went through, we made them all uniform, so put pages, put the Village of Blissfield. We added the SLA status for each employee, whether they're exempt or not on their job description. And then all of the employees went through all of their job duties and responsibilities and added things that they do routinely that were not in there before. Just made sure that things were current and made sense today for different equipment that they were using, their standards, went through, made all those changes, they reviewed them. And I did send these to you guys for review. I didn't get any comments. So I'm hoping to get these approved because the next agenda item, I'm hoping that you guys will approve that compensation study. So then we're ready to hit the ground running with MML and get that moving forward. But it certainly, if you have questions or amendments, changes, anything, let me know.
I just had 2 questions. The first one would be on the administrators regarding appointing a personnel and whatnot. Are we gonna discuss that down the line? Are we happy where council or where council quote hires, recommends, department heads, whatnot? I know we've had dialogue regarding that. I just want to know that you're clear on it and we're clear on what the intent is.
Yeah, so that's staying the same
Staying the same
is
for
how
now.
right now,
Okay.
because I have the personnel policy, which will come to you guys in March with major revisions that does change that, and there would be an ordinance change. So until we have that policy and that ordinance revision in place, right now I have to operate under the ordinance and policies we have.
Okay. And then the second one was on treasurers. I know I saw on the clerks, it included sort of running the stuff up front of Stacy's busy or whatnot, just collecting payments, entering that sort of stuff. And I didn't see it on the treasurer, but again, I know you guys are busy enough. I want all 3 or all 4 positions to kind of be able to rotate and fill in as needed. If Brandon needed to collect a water bill or whatever, payment at the front desk, is that in there? It wasn't really clear, like it mentioned in the clerks.
Do you have a specific reference?
Just comparing to what the clerks has read above.
Clerk?
Yeah, just fulfilling and collecting.
Isn't that number 1? Ensures the collection of village revenue from property taxes, water and sewer billings.
Just the way that it read, it would be nice if it repeated itself. Sorry, just
Yeah, and I could change that.
You know,
to
I
make
mean, just
those
running
two
the
match.
front. Yeah, exactly. Because
Yeah.
again, it's just something that is required being in those positions.
Mhm.
It's just the daily operational, duties of working in the village office.
Okay, so pending those small revisions, looking for a recommended motion to approve them with those.
Yeah, so number 9 from the clerks, 1, 2, just to clarify, performs the
Correct,
duties
yes.
of other administrative staff as necessary, works the front desk, answers phones, responds to citizens' inquiries, complaints, plans, coordinates functions and events as requested.
I think
So I'll
that's
just
essential for any of
literally
our
copy
staff.
and paste that into the village treasurer job description.
Anybody else? Looking for a motion.
Motion to approve the revised job descriptions as amended.
Support.
Moved and supported, thank you. Lisa, if you will.
Mike, did you support that?
Yes.
Thank you. Eric,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
James,
Yes. Motion passes. On item number 5, approved classification and compensation study.
I move that council approve the Michigan Municipal League proposal for the classification and compensation study in the amount of $17,250.
Support. Moved and supported. I'll just remind everyone that this was budgeted and is much needed. Any questions?
And is a council goal.
Oh, yeah.
I would hope that we would share it with neighboring, much like Clint does their studies and whatnot. I think, again, it's pertinent information for all of our municipalities to kind of grow and learn from each other. So I would hope we would pass that well researched, study on.
Maybe we could rent it out to them.
Yeah, kickback.
We'll give you this. Fine.
Lisa, if you will.
Bill,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
James,
Yes, the motion passes. Number 6, approved fee waiver request. Let's see, any representative here.
Yeah, I don't know that if she was gonna be able to make it or not.
Okay.
I did let her know that I would be presenting it regardless. Her request that she sent me is quoted right in the agenda for you guys. This is actually, she's the neighbor to the person that was approved at the last council meeting, and they had the exact same thing happen. So Denise is just requesting a waiver for the sewage portion. And I did include that amount. If you look at her 12-month history, which is what I did with the gates, her average usage was 1,200 gallons per month. So if you don't include the sewage for that, just the above and beyond, it would be $276.86.
My only question is, how do we avoid this?
But it's private sump pumps, we don't maintain them, we have no control, we have no idea when it happens. I mean, DPW did see the meters were running, they were reading, and it was running higher than normal usage, so they did make contact with both residents to mitigate and it being an even higher fee. So we were able to get water turned off and stop that, but outside of that.
Yeah, and I know 276.86 is not a large amount for the village. It is for the individual, and certainly the gates were, I don't remember that dollar figure, but it was.
Yeah, theirs was it was quite a bit.
Closer to 1,000.
Yeah, it was about double or a little over double.
I have a question. Are they all, do they live in, so why don't we send a letter to everybody around here saying, hey, check your stuff out, make sure that it's not gonna happen to you?
Yeah, we certainly can.
I'll post it on the website or something.
Yeah. We can do that.
Well, based on precedent, I will make the motion that we credit Denise Adams the sewage only portion of her water bill based on the month average credit $276.86.
Support that.
Moved and supported. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, Lisa?
Tim,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
James,
Yes, motion passes. I'm wondering if we not only send a letter, but maybe just put something on our website that if you're going to leave, I don't know, shut your water off or have someone check it, just friendly reminders, neighborly stuff. Number 7,
There's
approved
a
change
problem
order.
if they shut the water off, then that pump can't run, and then they're looking at a flooded basement, so it's.
Yeah, I know, when I said it, I was like, I said neighborly, tell your neighbors to go check it on the daily. Change order for wastewater treatment plant number 21, Randy, how are you this evening?
He's ready.
Having a blast.
Yeah. What'd you think about that heated exchange earlier? You're gonna be part of the negotiations.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, you were quiet earlier. All right. Go ahead. Let us know what's going on.
All right, well. I guess I think this one's pretty self-explanatory if you have any specific questions. Well, a lot of this just comes down to like the electrical portion. It's a grounding thing. I think this pertains to all the work that was being done in existing buildings. Since we were doing, I think it's like anything over like $1,500 worth of work, the inspector can inspect everything. And this was one of the things that he had found, was there was an grounding, I don't know if it was an opinion or how he figured it, but that one held up final. And then the other is, if you recall, we made a change for the blower piping was moved from inside the building to outside the building. And we approved that on a T&M basis. I think we all agreed that their original price that they gave was exceedingly high. And if I don't recall, this came in under that.
It was like half.
So,
Okay. How much did they actually charge us for the 2 ground rods? I mean, it's literally 2 copper rods, and you go out there and you slam them in the ground and you attach them with some wire. Like,
I think this also included what the electrical inspector made us do was ground the piping. So every piping, if it was over like 10 feet, we had to do additional ground clamps. And that's what he nailed us on. And unfortunately, when they talk about the electrical inspector report, we're kind of at their mercy. Even if we go back and forth with them and don't agree with them, they're gonna be the one to issue the occupancy, and we can't write anything about it.
Yeah, and we did talk to them about that to make sure we had clarification, and it wasn't just something that, was like, oh, we gotta do this, or like, we wanted to make sure it was legitimately needed.
Denise, I keep seeing 95% complete.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that they're working on now is punch list items. We had 7 pages of punch list, things that weren't complete, and so, like the last little thing, so that's a lot of what they've been working on. So yeah, we're still there.
Any idea of a completion date?
No, we've asked several times, supposedly we have another meeting Wednesday morning, right, Giovanni might.
well, we've been asking since November 1st.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last 5-week look ahead we got was November 1st. We've been, minimum asking for 5 weeks now for an updated schedule. And have yet to receive that.
are people still out there daily? So I mean, I can't imagine what's going on and what that's called increasing the cost if they're saying they can't get this or they can't get that.
Well, at this point,
what are they doing out there?
Yeah, are you seeing progress, David?
Yeah, they are still doing some of their underground stuff. They've had a lot of stuff that they've just kind of sat on, and they've gave excuses of why they haven't finished it.
So you're not seeing progress?
I am. It's just, we'll.
Not finishing it.
Yes.
It's basically.
They'll go through and they'll run this line down the hill and get it 20 feet finished, and then they'll be like, well, we've got to wait to do this because. And then 6 months later, they'll go and finish the tie.
Well, that's because you're waiting on materials. That was supposed to be funny. Come on.
Laughing inside.
I know, I was being a little smart aleck, yes, I know.
So, some of the stuff, like the topic that we're gonna cover next, it was.
Well, I wouldn't consider it 95% then. There's obviously things that are still getting done. We weren't.
Yeah, well, a lot of it is.
If they're working daily, they weren't at 95% for 4 months or 3 months.
I was gonna say, you talk, another 2 months? There we go.
Yeah.
I think they were waiting for this money. Oh, yeah. Waiting for the money. Yeah. And is there any input from you before?
No, I recommend this change order as well.
Okay. All right, so I'm looking for a motion to approve this change order.
Make motion to approve change order 21 in the amount of $30,527.78. And authorize the village administrator to execute all documents related to the change order on behalf of the governing body.
Support.
Moved and supported. There's no other discussion. Lisa?
Bill,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
James,
Yes. Motion passes. Randy, while we have you here, approved sewer main replacement time and material increase for wastewater treatment plant upgrade project. How did this come about?
So while digging to set manhole 3, I think we call it 4. Our current 20-inch line that goes from the final manhole in the collection system and actually feeds the plant as is. They had to dig down to it, dig around it, dig under it to set the new manhole. In doing so, they found that it was encased in concrete, and for whatever reason decided it was a grand idea to try to scrape the concrete off the pipe with an excavator 25 feet above where we were working, and had nobody there to, at least in the hole, to give any direction to the guy that can hardly see what he's working. In such, we found out that that piece of pipe is cast iron and was in bad shape. So while I agree with the fact that we should replace the pipe, I don't necessarily think the full cost should be burdened by the village.
That full cost being the 64,000.
It was more than that.
Yeah. Yes, it was initially, wasn't it?
It was initially $74,108 and some odd cents.
And they went down to the 64.
Yeah, Denise actually had responded back to them with numerous comments, questions, asked for some additional clarification. They provided some of that. At that time, they indicated that the village could figure it out and just let them know, and they charge us for delay. So I jumped in, and that's when I copied all of you guys on that email back to them. They responded, said that they were willing to work with us on this. I asked them to submit a realistic cost, and that's where the 64 came in. So just to kind of summarize too, so they did bust a hole in the top of the pipe. The pipe is about 70 years old.
It was put in the 50s.
We did
55,
not
56.
know that it was encased in concrete. The engineers didn't, we had no idea. There was no notes on our plans, no way for us to have known that without getting down to the pipe. So I think that's what Randy is trying to say, that we do feel like it makes sense to replace that pipe, but we shouldn't be burdened with the cost that they had to patch it and some additional things. They initially were going to set that manhole and keep that pipe, that main live, get the manhole all set, and then they cut that main out so that it remained live the entire time that they were working. If we replace that pipe, they can't do that. So they would have to bypass around that manhole and that section of pipe so that we can continue accepting waste in the plant while they do the work. And that's where a big cost of this is coming from, the rental of that and then some material. But I did put a piece of paper in front of you guys. So the engineers and staff are on this, and it's just the single page front and back. This is their realistic cost that's been submitted. We did go through and make some comments on here for you guys, and I believe engineer staff are all on the same page on this. So I'll just kind of really quick go through because it might help a little bit. So they did break out their costs. The patch pipe, which they have down to $582, I don't think the village should be responsible for it all. We didn't break the pipe. They knew it was there, regardless if it was covered in concrete or not. Removing and installing a fence to access the bypass, we do agree that that's acceptable and would be required outside of their normal scope. The next section, there's a note on the side. We agree with part of this, but unless they could provide more information about some of the labor, we just feel that it's very excessive. The other thing is that we don't feel that we should pay for any additional rental or delays for material or equipment. I'm sorry, not material, for equipment because of their, what's that?
Because of their mistake.
Yes. So that cost breakdown is on the right, but we're recommending, or would feel acceptable as $7,444.80. And then on the back, they've got a 2-week bypass pump rental. We think that 1-week rental would be more than sufficient. You're looking at a couple days for that pipe at most, and that's being pretty generous, really. So that would be $15,508. The second pump and the FM Sylvan, which is the actual material and install, we're good with that. So if you I broke down the totals on the bottom. We're saying about $37,919.58 is what we feel is realistic and acceptable. What I would recommend to council is that you guys approve a time and material not to exceed a certain amount. And this is, I think you guys can set it at what we've recommended here. After approving that last change order, we have $59,486.03 in contingency. You could do not to exceed that amount and give them some flexibility, or any other amount really. And definitely, if you have questions for the three of us, let us know.
When you say we, you're referring to you, to Pogobuyer, and to Randy?
When I say like that we reviewed.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, just
yes.
Thank you. Okay, gotcha. And you guys have the $37,919.
Correct.
That's your.
Is Ken still out on the job?
Yes.
And Ken would be responsible, if we approve time and material, of monitoring the time and material costs, which is what he's done as part of the whole project. And then Randy kind of oversees him and the project just to make sure that we agree and nothing was missed by Ken.
What would be like an acceptable time frame? I mean, are you thinking here, Danielle, when you say time and material, not to exceed, like time?
So it would be time that they actually work on replacing that.
Oh,
that
gotcha.
And that's in your 7444.80. That's what you're assuming for time.
Yeah, and I feel we've been generous. We're giving, saying 2 days, it's 10 foot of pipe.
Yeah,
I mean, we had 8 people for like 2 weeks in their original proposal.
Yeah.
They've got essentially some old grout coating to chip away, removal of the pipe, set the new pipe, and grout it in.
And it's already
Everything's already
excavated,
excavated, dug, trench boxes are in.
which was part of the original project because they had to do that for the manhole.
There's no further excavation needed done. It's just a matter of removal and installation of the physical pipe.
Do they not have to bypass that to begin with, though? They gotta do that regardless.
They were gonna have to do a bypass at some point, but it was gonna be that particular manhole solely. It wasn't gonna be split upstream in both directions. So it does save them a bypass.
So would that backup pump, or I guess the bypass pump, be needed anyway?
A
Not to
portion,
this extent.
yes, basically half of the pumps will be.
And that should have been in the original quote contract, right? Then so why are we paying to have that pump at an additional day or additional 2 days is what you're saying, right? If that would have been in the original scope of the project, that should just be in there. We shouldn't have to pay for that pump.
There's some additional pumping that would be needed because of replacing this pipe. But your point in making that they're saving a pumping by doing us, there should be some form of credit.
Correct.
Back. It wouldn't cover the whole of this total, then it would be a portion.
And that's what, again, I feel for them on a lot of this stuff, but a lot of these things, it feels like they're nickel and diming us on having an excavator, bringing an excavator, and that stuff is all on site. So that's my frustration with it, and that's what we need to sit down and discuss.
I do not feel bad
You
for
re-
them.
you
They did
remember-
the project in August of 20 with COVID-19 conditions as part of their bid.
What's the big fellow's name? Minks?
Alan
Jinx. Remember the analogy that he gave about when, at the start of COVID, when you went into the grocery store and the shelves were empty and everything was gone? Well, think about that and think about how many months later, 4 months later, making a bid for a job that you know requires United States made product. And you don't take that into consideration, the fact that you can't buy groceries. There's no reason to feel sorry for them. Mike, you're very gracious to do that, but there is no reason.
Well, that's where I want to hash out the nitty gritties and stuff, and it's, you know, obviously it's nice to have.
And the man wanted to have a debate that he was gonna lose really bad.
You know, the source of all frustrations, but this pipe replacement, let's discuss that.
We also, that pipe we already have, it was the leftover section from work that was already completed. So there is no expense to having to buy any more pipe. It's already on site.
We have the pipe, we have the hole dug, we have the pump already rented for the job it was originally intended for.
Yep, and we do, I
Am I
mean,
wrong?
this needs to move forward so that we can get this project completed.
But we have the pump for it.
No, we do not have the pumps yet.
If you guys approve this on T&M, then we would get the bypass pumps in and we'd be ready to go otherwise.
But would the bypass pumps be paid for in this job, include the manhole cover job?
No, what, in their,
Okay.
in
I'm
their
good with that.
plan, they would have had to have used 2 pumps. They would have to have a main pump and a backup.
Okay.
Whether it be something happens to the main pump, this particular one for this change order, we'd have to have 4 pumps, 2 at each manhole upstream.
Okay.
Of what we're in replacing.
So I'm looking for a motion, and keep in mind, we have contingency left of 59,486.03. We have what seems to be an engineer agreed upon amount of $38,000.
But how does this work if we were to approve not to exceed 38,000? And then whether they reject it, with them not having submitted the actual price themselves?
It's like the rest of the project.
Yeah.
Would you repeat the question?
He
So
wants to know what happens
they're-
if we approve this and they say we're not doing it for that amount.
They've proposed 64,000 and change. And if we say 38,000, are we wasting our time?
You've heard the expression nuclear approach.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about.
Well, and I think it goes back to my email to them. If they fail to complete the project, then we'll charge LDs and file on their bond. And that's not the route I want to go at all. I'd rather work with LaSalle. But I mean,
Even-
unfortunately, that's the option we have.
I'll make one more statement. Even if we approve the 38,000, it only leaves us with 21,000 left in contingency. So we might as well approve up to the contingency amount. And hopefully that gets the job done closer to the $40,000, the 37,900. Right, and 59,000 is close enough to 65 for them to go for it.
But then we-
That 15% markup.
But then anything else down quote in that 5%
Exactly.
is on top of what we don't have, and we have to come up with that.
That's right.
Specifically.
That's right.
Which we're going to be in that boat anyway. Like, I don't completely disagree with James' logic
Yeah,
there.
we're not gonna see the end of this project before we start having some out-of-pocket expenses.
Yeah, and to me, that's a better alternative than not working with them, and because it's the thing, like, they're 95% complete. Like, I'd rather see them see this project through than have to try to get somebody else to come in and do that.
This piece of pipe is a large chunk to getting this project finished. Like, once they set this manhole, they've got startup to do on the headworks and the pump station.
Well, I trust our engineer a lot more than I trust our contractors, and if you guys feel that we can get it done in that amount of time, then I say we follow the engineer's recommendation, and we should be able to get it done for approximately 40.
Yeah, I'm leaning that way as well. Even though that leaves us not much in the bank, we did have something in the bank. You know what?
Motion?
Yeah, I don't have a motion, but, okay, I'll make a motion. No, I don't have a motion.
So doing it on a T&M, it's just a not to exceed. We still, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're gonna meet that number. I think in a way that they also did propose this as a almost worst case scenario. Aside from, while they do the work, they obliterate the existing manhole.
Well, and it's like the one we just approved before that was half of
The
what
word
they
obliterate is
quoted.
no longer in play here.
Is that manhole still needed if we replace all that?
Yeah.
The
Yes,
yes.
yes, because we've got
We
a,
need access to it.
yep, so each end of the drive, that's where we've got one coming from like up towards Bailey's, and then we've got another line coming by where the brush pile sits.
So, and like you said, this is a large chunk, large missing chunk to complete.
Yes, this stands in the way from basically putting the pump station in operation.
Okay, well, with that being said, anybody?
This is basically the final connection.
Yeah, once they get this completed, there's one valve in the headworks building that's holding up final completion on that. They've got to do programming and startup on the pump station. They're hoping to do startup on the RAS pumps Thursday. And then we're just kind of getting into the punch list items.
All right.
Should we just not give them, just say time and material, not give them a number, because we know we're gonna have to deal on everything else down the line anyway.
That is an option. You certainly can do that. I wouldn't recommend it, but yes, that is an option to this council.
What is the actual amount? I'm sorry, I'm not locating it. What is our actual amount that's left in the contingency?
$59,486.03.
$59,486.03. Thank you.
It's in both 7 and 8, if you want to write it.
Because if they say no to whatever our offer is, then
thank you.
We have to do it anyway, right? We have to do something.
Yes.
So James, you're suggesting that just do the 59 for whatever. Be done with it. That empties out all of our money per se from our contingency.
That's right.
But it goes ahead and it gets this project done. I'm hearing it's an essential portion that needs to be done, almost done. Anything else that should come on up, we have to basically find the funds to pay for it.
That's correct.
And keep in mind that this will be time and material. So if it ends up costing them $23,000, then that's what would be included in the change order.
And that's Ken at Hogemeyer overseeing the labor cost and material cost.
Correct.
And the work.
But then those down.
And then according to Randy, this really sets in motion the final push, which, keep our fingers crossed, shouldn't have that much. Shouldn't. Fingers crossed.
Depends on negotiations.
So then LaSalle can go ahead, and if we do a 40,000, LaSalle will go ahead and say, we're not taking 40 because it's not enough.
That's
And then screw up the whole.
They could in turn on a tight T&M, say, we've exhausted the amount that you approved, we're stopping work until you approve.
But isn't that why we have an overseer? To validate their claims that
yes,
they've exceeded the time and they've exceeded the money?
Yeah.
And that's Ken, correct?
But keep in mind, the hole's dug, the materials are on site.
Yes, they had exposed the pipe already.
What we need to do is get the pump here and the man hours.
Yes, and then from what I was told, once they've been given the okay to go, the pump company will be out with stuff next day, and then they've got approximately 2 days for setup. And then they probably got 2 days worth of work.
With the pump.
Yeah.
So we'll have a pump for a week.
Right,
Yeah.
and then,
Yeah.
yeah, they had number two, but right now.
Yeah, okay.
Even if we approve the 59,000, they can still come back at us and say it's not enough. With condition. So.
Yeah, they can always do that.
Yeah, but I think that puts us close enough to the ballpark that
Make a motion to approve replacing the sewer main on time and material not to exceed 59,486.03.
Looking for a second or support?
I'll support it.
Thank you. The motion moved and supported. Lisa, whenever you're ready.
Mike.
No.
Eric,
No,
Gwen,
No,
Tim,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
James.
Yes. Aye.
So it dies.
Guys. Can we call for another motion or is that kind of discussion?
Yes, you can call
Okay.
for another motion.
Would anybody else like to, before we move on, make a motion?
I would just say we don't give them a number. We know we're already way above and beyond what they're requesting. We're gonna have to hash that out later, whether it's between us and this committee or whether it's using legal ramifications, I don't know. But again, let's just have them bill us as such. We work with the engineer to say this is what it actually costs, this is what we'll pay you later on. We're gonna find out this nickel and dime stuff later on. So I say just move forward with the time and material.
Without a fixed dollar.
Yep.
Just to Mike's point, I would say if we did that, they would assume $64,000.
I agree with that.
Unless they come back and watch the tapes. But they would think that we're accepting of that number, so it's actually not a bad play.
could we say something regarding, with Ken monitoring or something of that nature? Could we put that?
And that's part of,
That's just a.
like, that's our contract with Pogmeyer.
Would you like to give me any?
Yes.
So
I
Mike,
mean,
do
you
have a
can add
motion
it, but
then?
it would just be repetitive to, yeah.
And then we can argue that stuff out later. If they're above and beyond what we think it is, what our engineer recommends, then we'll argue that out with all of the other things that are above and beyond what.
We can take it to subcommittee.
you're saying a straight time and material.
Correct. And then it's up to the engineer to make sure that doesn't take 2 weeks, because if it does, then there's a problem. And then we know that it shouldn't be taking that long.
2 weeks, doesn't take 2 weeks or $65,000.
Correct.
Well, that's $5,500, give or take, that we'd have to come up with, so. All right. Looking for a motion to approve the replacement of sewer main on a time and material basis.
I'll make the motion that we authorize the sale. Is that gonna be another, like, change order 22 or something like that? Or is that just-
Yeah, I wouldn't number
Okay,
it
to
yet.
continue with fixing the 10-inch, the 20-inch line for time and material only. And direct our engineer to work with billing as such for an accurate time and material.
You have that, Lisa? All right, looking for support on that?
I'll support it.
Moved and supported. Go ahead and call the roll, Lisa.
Bill,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
James,
Yes, make it unanimous. On to reports. It's pressing 9:15. Any major questions on the reports? Administrator, any chiefs in tonight, anything from him?
Thanks for your review report. I'd just like to mention, you see a lot of, we're disregarding the police, a lot of keyboard warriors and whatnot, social media that do like to disparage the police department where they're at. Again, I take pride in our lack of crime or whatever it's at. I take pride in our department, and again, now coming up to full staff, we will see hopefully the 24/7 coverage that the village has relayed to us that they want. So again, the numbers are the proof in the pudding. I appreciate that.
I'd like to piggyback on the top of Mike. I want to say that my sister had car problems downtown a week or so ago after the basketball game, and I was trying to get her home. I got her from out in front of Coney, but she got down to the bridge and had car problem again, and then the police officer came up behind us and the lights on and blocked traffic, and so thank you for that.
Good to hear. Thank you.
Far too often hear the negative, but we never hear those positive stories that they engage in daily. Any questions for the treasurer? None. Council discussion.
I have a question for the attorney. Who all was involved in drafting the plea agreement and the embezzlement case?
To the best of my knowledge, there is no plea agreement in the embezzlement case.
You're saying there's none?
To the best of my knowledge, there is none. I wouldn't have been involved in drafting it anyway.
Can I ask a question? I mean, I'm brand new to the board, and that's the second time in 2 meetings I've heard that question asked. So I'm just curious, with all due respect, where are you getting, what's driving that question?
If I can answer that with another question.
Sure.
It was stated by our attorneys that they have not seen the forensic audit and that they don't know any more about the case than we do because the prosecuting attorney is handling everything. That being said, why would our attorneys have any reason to discuss the case with a current employee's attorney?
So I think it's on record.
I didn't have, if you're referring to a discussion between Mr. Lacoste and Mr. Trushan, which I think is the issue that you're asking about, yes?
Yes, it was.
I didn't have that discussion, so I don't know what the topic was. I don't know. Would you read your question again, please?
Yes, sure will. Hold on a second, because let's break it down. Mr. Lacoste has seen the forensic audit.
I saw their forensic audit. I'm the only one who's seen it.
And that's.
And I never said I'd never seen it.
That's been stated.
I asked that question last meeting.
But he wasn't here.
Yeah, but you and Dave work together. You know every case. Together.
I know things that Dave doesn't know, and Dave knows things that I don't know, if that's what you mean.
But I asked that question last week or last meeting, and the answer was no, nobody has seen it.
No.
The question
That wasn't the question that you asked.
Hold on, that question was asked in the review, and it was stated that the forensic audit was meant to go to you.
That's correct.
As the representative, so as to have client attorney privileges if it was ever to be discussed. That's just a summary, right? We clarified that. So that's been clarified. What's the second part of that question?
Why would our attorneys, our village attorneys, have any reason to discuss the case with a current employee's attorney?
I don't know. You should direct that question to the person who had the discussion. I don't know what the subject of their conversation was. there's lots of reasons why they might have discussed that case. I don't know.
Well,
There's no reason for me to know.
Then the village paid for that discussion too.
I presume that it was a legitimate, I think it was 2/10 of an hour or something like that.
Yes.
I presume, and Mr. Lacoste would be the one to answer the question, that it was a legitimate topic of discussion. That there was some good reason for it. But I don't know. I don't know.
I'd like for you to answer Bill's question.
Because I don't feel like the truth is being said.
Well, I'm totally in the dark here, and I don't understand the motivation or whatever, however you want to refer to it, why those questions continue to be asked when, as I understand it, this is an open investigation and we're not going to have any access to any of that information, that pool of information, until this is a closed case. Am I wrong? Or am I just missing something? I don't know.
You're correct in the sense that as long as this is an ongoing case and the investigation is, and Chief, you can help me with this, the investigation is ongoing, then the substance of it is exempt from disclosure under the Freedom of Information Act. That is correct. And until that, the forensic audit, for example, is now the property of the Lenawee County Prosecutor's Office, and it remains so, and part of an ongoing investigation until they say that their investigation is closed. And then maybe, depending upon lots of different things, that report would be subject to disclosure under the Freedom of Information Act.
Shouldn't the investigation be done when we're at the quote court level now? I mean, the investigation is.
You would think so. You would think that everybody knows everything there is to know, but I think Chief Greenleaf would tell you that there's always the possibility of new information, new evidence, inculpatory as well as exculpatory. Sorry, go ahead. Those are terms of art. There's a reason for using them, and yeah, as long as the case remains open, then the investigation remains open, and the prosecutor has a responsibility to disclose everything that he or she has or will have that is exculpatory, and the defense, to the extent that it's not privileged, has the legal obligation to disclose everything that would be inculpatory.
I suppose it just seems on my end, I'm trying to stay back on this just due to the numerous hats that I have to wear. So I'm trying to lay low on it, but if I was just wearing my counsel hat, I sure as heck would want to be a little bit more informed of what's going on. If we're the victim, we're representing the village, and the village is quote the victim. I think, you think of a personal court case, if I punched my girlfriend or something, we know both ends of it. Our lawyers talk, we know each other, the plaintiff and the defendant know what's going on, correct? Unfortunately, we're representing the village as the defendant or as the plaintiff, and we don't know anything of what's going on.
Everyone has the right to due process, though.
Absolutely.
Once you start down that path of releasing information, that due process,
correct,
you get tried in the public rather than in.
It just seems like somebody's implying that there's something more going on, and I guess that's my question is there's something deeper going on than what we know, or what I just feel out of the loop on this entire process, and it's frustrating. as a representative of the village who was quote the victim in this, that we should have some sort of knowledge of what's going on.
What was your first question again? The plea thing? Did you read that? I'm curious why, I'm still not quite sure why we're asking this question.
Who all was involved in drafting the plea agreement in the embezzlement case?
That implies that there's a plea agreement out there.
And we've been told that there's not a plea agreement, so I'm curious as to why it's being asked.
I'm asking the question to get the answer.
If there is a plea agreement, if there is.
Is there?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
If there is, it would have been the product of negotiations between the defendant's attorney and the prosecuting attorney, and I wouldn't have anything, nor would Mr. Lacoste have anything to do with it.
So why, another question, why do you think there is a plea agreement out there?
I'm just looking for truth.
I get that, but I'm looking for answers.
What makes you think you're not receiving the truth? I don't get it.
Is somebody feeding you questions? I'm just curious.
What was the question I asked last meeting?
It was, I don't remember word for word, just to be clear, but it was something along the lines of, has the village
Been offered a plea deal?
yeah, was the village part of a plea deal made, or I don't, again, I'm trying to remember how you worded that, Tim, I'm sorry. It was something, the question asked was the village part of a plea deal that was made or offered regarding the embezzlement case?
And
And again, I'm paraphrasing.
Attorney Lacoste said no, correct?
Correct.
Which you essentially asked that same question tonight.
Okay.
I'm not trying to be argumentative with you.
Oh, no, it's fine.
I'm just, if we're asking questions, are we just throwing things out there, trying to see what will stick to the wall?
No, just look for truth.
You imply that you know something that someone in here doesn't know. When you ask that
Well,
question,
the attorney would know
I would know what.
what I asked, and you're saying there's not. So
Not to my knowledge.
you're saying there's not, so there's
In
not.
I have practiced criminal defense for 20 years this year. I have never seen a plea agreement, an offer of a plea agreement that wasn't put in writing, because any plea agreement that's not in writing isn't worth the paper it's printed on. And to the best of my knowledge, in this case, the case you're referring to right now, there is no such plea agreement. I have not heard one, the terms of one, and I certainly have not seen one. And I have not participated in any conversations that would have defined one. Is that sufficient?
I hear what you're saying.
That's the truth.
Okay. I'm good.
If I may be devil's advocate, let's pretend there was a plea deal. If there were, we would know about it as counsel. Would you agree with that?
we may know that, correct me if I'm wrong, if I speak out of turn here. We may know that there is one, but I don't think we would know the terms of that plea agreement. If there was.
If there was one, because we are.
If one were contemplated, the prosecutor's obligation would be to divulge that to basically to negotiate it with the defendant's attorney. Whether the prosecutor's office, whether the policy of the prosecutor's office is to discuss potential plea agreements with the victim in all cases, I don't know. I can say that there was a period of time where that was not the policy of the Lenawee County Prosecutor's Office, but as you know, recently there's been some rather significant change in the structure of that office, and I don't know what the current prosecuting attorney's policy is on disclosure of plea agreements with victims, obligated to do that. Using the example, oddly enough, that Mike gave of a domestic violence situation, the prosecutor doesn't even need the testimony of the victim to go forward to prosecute. The statute permits the prosecutor's office to go forward using only the police report. So not necessarily, I guess the answer to your question is not necessarily.
Well, there's also terms of plea agreements as well.
Absolutely. But I'm not, I'm gonna go straight back to what I said before. I'm not aware of any plea agreement.
It sounds like you think that there is one.
Just making sure. Have you been informed of one? I'm ending my discussion at this point. All right. Any other council discussion? No. I will take public comments, items not on the agenda.
Do we have anything for the committee, a whole meeting for next week or not?
Yes, council votes. And I'll
Hold on. We have we're gonna do the preview after items on the, not on the agenda. And I do have a comment. You want to just hold on for a second?
my bad.
It's all right. You want to come up to the pulpit and state your name? That's pulpit, sorry. Podium, pulpit.
Barbara Henry, 209 Maple Street, Blissfield. I am proposing buying a little park. I know we have a lot, but there's a lot right downtown that isn't utilized at all. And I would like to see some things that we want to see in town done there. A movie screen, we wouldn't have to do the blow up in the middle of the street down here. And a stage in front of the movie screen. Hopefully, we could find something that would, the movie screen would be lowered or somehow up in the air and brought down, but so that it isn't as easily damaged. To do that, though, we have to buy that little lot. So I am proposing that we contact the alumni of Blissfield High School. It's a major job, but worth undertaking. And ask for donations for it, and then call it the Blissfield Alumni Park.
Where is this park?
What?
Where are you talking about park?
Next to my building, next to the pack rat.
Theater property. Theater property.
There have been some conversations, just a little, but it's possible that it would be for sale. And trying to.
Everything's for sale for the right price, Barb, right?
I'm sorry. I didn't hear
Everything's
that.
for sale for the right price.
Well, true. And he has been offered 42,000 for it, and he turned it down. But that doesn't mean, I mean, that was a few years ago. And it doesn't mean if, you know, if a realtor went to him and said, hey, you know.
This is Mr. Litsky's property. Oh, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. Okay.
So I'm just asking tonight for a go-ahead, if you will, to start talking to some of the alumni and see if it's even possible to start a fund to do that. If you think about the space, it's not just a stage and a screen. There's so much possibility for other things down the road. But if we could do it in the next year and a half, we could use that for the bicentennial. So if there aren't any objections, I would go ahead and pursue this issue.
I'm not sure how I feel about it, Barb. I mean, right, just by hearing you like that, I don't want to say, sure, go start talking to alumni and go for it. I think we need to really think about that, you know, with all the projects going on, and we've said this numerous times, this when you were on the board, what more do we need to do? And then the upkeep, it's always going to go back to that upkeep, like you alluded to that before, we're going to pull, et cetera, et cetera. I think perhaps if you could give something a little more, not vetted, but a little something more concrete. I want to see something on paper, what your thoughts are. You got something?
I don't have a list of what my thoughts are
You
yet.
could bring something to the next meeting maybe and provide each one with something that you're thinking of, a little more specific, and
I
some
have gone,
numbers.
I have gone to the design committee and they approved it, or that, you know, gave me the go ahead. I went to the DDA board and they also said, go ahead and see what you can do. Some of the things, if we started a separate fund, like the Little League account was, then people could continue to give to that, and that could be the upkeep. And we could word that when we put it out there for people.
I would have no problem putting it on the wish list again, but there's just a lot of items obviously on that wish list. You know, we're talking about the other part that we were denied recently, the funding for it to improve. So again, it's just about priorities and obviously money, but I mean, in theory, it makes sense if you can do it without the village's interest, you know, and being self-supportive or self-funding.
That would be the goal.
I totally get it, but I would be on board with it. But again, you know, is it technically on like the DDA's TIF list? Is it on the village's wish list?
Is it part of Parks and Rec? Where's it gonna fall? Whose responsibility will it be? I'm not saying it's a bad idea, personally. Because everything that you said, I need to see it on paper, where there's a game plan, where there's a plan, and it's spelled out a little bit. Not sure the plan isn't clear.
Do you want to see my concept?
No.
No?
Well, it sounds.
Being honest, Mark.
Barb.
Okay, it's been a long enough meeting.
Barb, it sounds like there's more questions than answers right now, so I just think.
But I know what you want to know now.
Yes,
I think
I'll come back.
good start to the
This would be a
discussion.
start.
All right,
Thank you.
I saw a hand up in the back.
Okay. I'm Barb Abenzeller. I live at 415 South Lane, and I just wanted to draw something to your attention. When the gentleman from LaSalle was speaking about having some deliveries that were, you know, an incorrect address, I was at incorrect address. I was getting some deliveries of some of the equipment that they were, some of the component pieces that they were using. And I reported it immediately. I had many conversations with Lisa, and someone came and picked it up that very day. So did not result in any kind of a delay. And I just wanted to let you know in case that's what he meant by that. And I think there were a couple of different companies involved, because one delivery had a 25-foot long pipe in my driveway. And obviously that, you know, they had to pick it up the next day. But there were a couple of different companies involved. I personally called the company, spoke to the shipping manager, and tried to correct that address many times. And I know that in the office you did too. So that took quite a while to resolve that. So I'm assuming that it was someone from their company that maybe gave the incorrect address. I don't know. But sometimes it said 415 Lane Street. Sometimes it said 415 South Lane. So something.
I have a question.
Yes.
Was that 25-foot pipe produced by an American company?
I just wanted to let you know.
Thank you.
Real quick, Eric Mayer, and I'll talk about our 5-year plan for a little bit. I put a request into Rotary just to update you on Parks and Rec for a little bit for money for football helmets, and they've agreed to match up to $3,200. So we're going to work on matching that to get a grant for paying for football helmets. So just so you guys know.
Well, thank you, Eric.
Real quick thing, unless you have.
Sure.
Laura Nichols, DDA.
DDA and the village was granted a CEDAM fellow, and the DDA has agreed to pay $3,300 towards the 10,000. So just so you guys know, we will be paying that for you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no more. Committee of the whole, agenda preview. Go ahead, Eric.
The village council goals will be on that, right?
It's listed.
I didn't know if there was more.
Just kind of falls in a funny spot. It kind of looks like it's in
The entire agenda does, because there's like no spacing after.
I know.
Is that the program that we?
Yes,
we
I
take
try,
from that?
I have tried to
Are they
mess with that too.
Europe or something? It just doesn't make sense that everything is spaced incorrectly, so it's like the details go with the previous.
I struggled for a while.
I don't know why that's so hard for them to.
Yeah,
figure
I've
out.
tried to put like my own spacing to make it a little bit better, but it is just how the program is mapped out and creates it. And just really quick too, so I did send you guys those village goals, I think in the weekly summary 2 weeks ago, with some notes giving you an update as to where we're at on those. I plan on resending those again on Friday in my week, or Thursday in my weekly summary. And then it'll be on the agenda as well, because that'll give you guys kind of a base to start working off of and maybe edit, add, remove from there.
Just so we're clear, village council goals for February, personnel policy for March, planning commission, council joint meeting to discuss sustainability plan is scheduled for April, and ARPA funds discussion. Yeah, those are committee of the wholes for the next, yes, 40+. Anything else for the agenda preview?
Well, just regarding ARPA, there's things, again, I think that we all know that have to be done. And again, I would love to see these bridge projects ready to go before spring and summer. I mean, if we have to do stuff and we have to expend those funds, I don't want to sit here and wait till May to discuss that stuff. I want to move on some of these things. And I think.
Are you saying you want to move it before something?
Well, I like the idea of discussing goals, but I like the idea of moving bridge discussion to February as well. Specifically bridge discussion. Can we do that?
On Monday of next week?
Yes. So, because they kind of go hand in hand, but that.
Because the bridge is not part of the goals, you're saying?
They are.
Right, so you're saying.
And yeah, we've been talking about bridges for.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we're on year 6 of discussing the treads and underneath of that steel bridge. It is time to move on it.
So let's make the village goal, the bridge a priority in that discussion. I agree. Anything further? No, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn at whatever time it is.
Moved and supported for 9:42. Lisa?
Who supported that?
Tim?
Thank you.
Timmy?
Eric?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Hey, have